Authors Plus.
Okay, my name is Ben. I'm here at the Authors Press booth at the London Book Fair 2022. I'm here with Chuck, the author of Fantastic One. We're going to talk a bit more about the book now. Nice to see you again, Chuck.
And good to see you, Ben. Good to be with you.
Yes, it's nice to be here. And are you enjoying London so far?
It's just fantastic. I lived here back in the 60s, but I'm glad to be back here and just greatest town in the world as far as I'm concerned. A lot of smart people.
A good time to be in London, the 60s.
It is.
So, so tell me something about the book while we're here.
Well, we're talking about the book Wand, which was a book that I wrote in response to a competition that Ted Turner created. He was the founder of the CNN news network, and he proposed the idea of people writing novels that would talk about ways that humanity will survive. And so I thought that was a noble inspiration, and I set to work on writing the book. And so that's the result. I wrote a book called Wand, the power of the pencil, the power of the pen, the power of television antennas, even to help our society and civilization prosper.
Excellent. And tell us about the book cover. This is quite attractive. What is this exactly?
Well, one of the things that happens in the book is that my hero, Chris Walkman, goes to the Watts Towers in Los Angeles, which are part of a very impoverished community in town. But the Watts Towers are kind of an architectural wonder that were created by an immigrant back almost 100 years ago. But he holds a video teleconference at that place between this poor community and Westwood, which is a very well-to-do community in Los Angeles, to get these populations to talk to each other using a new technology. And so he doesn't change the world, but he certainly has got his mind set to doing just that.
Excellent. Yeah, it seems a fascinating story. And what inspired you to even look into it in the first place?
Well, I think the fact that Ted Turner offered this prize, that's frankly, he was a crazy man, and he's brilliant in his craziness. He offered $500,000 for a novel that talked about the ways that humanity might survive. And I thought, I'm going to write a novel. I could use $500,000, but also the goal and the purpose was so inspiring that I wrote this novel, and it was just kind of an adventure to getting it turned in on time, but it was really a fun process.
Excellent, okay. And this is a bit of a strange question that we ask a lot of our authors, but have you ever Googled yourself?
I have done that, and I must say that people say this is a brilliant man. He's just really, I don't know. In fact, a very good friend of mine wrote a review of the book, which I've not even seen yet, but she said, Chuck, you might want to look on Amazon and see this review that's been written about your book. And I thought, oh dear, I don't know if I want to know what it says, but then I found out, well, she wrote it, and she was just being coy, so
I would say, okay.
It is fun, and you never know, you're going to learn interesting things about yourself. I want to tell you one thing about getting this book turned in on time for the competition was that it features in the book a homeless person that Chris Walkman, the hero, befriends, and they have adventures throughout the course of the book. But when I had to turn the book in, it had to be turned in by a deadline of midnight on 1989, New Year's Eve, and so I went down to the post office in downtown Los Angeles to turn it in. It was closed, but a homeless person came out of the woodwork and said, no, you need to go down to Los Angeles International Airport and you get a postmark of midnight that night. So anyway, the book came true to the extent that a homeless person got this book at least turned in time for that competition, so I felt vindicated.
Supremely helpful, yeah.
It was just a very fate of quirk of history.
And in terms of other authors, whose work do you enjoy reading the most?
Well, I think I've said to a number of people that Carl Sagan, who wrote The Dragons of Eden, and just a lot of really interesting science books, was very much an inspiration to me. And I'm just absolutely inspired by the author and architect Buckminster Fuller. He was a guy who just said the power of the mind to improve our humanity is what's going to make the difference, So those are a couple of people that just really inspired me a lot.
And Carl Sagan, is that the pale blue dot
Exactly right. Yeah, absolutely right. And just a very brilliant scientist. Been dead for about 15 years now, but just continues to live in my heart. I love that man.
A great mind, yeah.
Great mind, yeah.
Absolutely. And I appreciate this is not an illustration exactly, but in terms of things that are on the covers of books, do you think that they help sell the book itself?
Oh, sure. I think so. I think there's this picture on the cover kind of creates an and interest to see the up close detail about the Watts Towers. I mean, they were made by this impoverished immigrant, but he just collected bits of shell and stone and things from all over town and built this structure that was just very weird and strange, but just very, just an extremely interesting architectural thing. And the city of Los Angeles had their doubts about these Watts Towers, but they were they tried to pull them down because they were concerned that they were going to fall. They actually broke down the engineers' machinery that they were using to try and pull it down because it was made so strong, the Watts Towers. So to me, they are iconic about the power of an artist to do something that has enduring staying power.
And do you prefer photos or illustrations on the front of your books?
In this case, a photo is almost like an illustration because it's so colorful and strange.
That's it, yeah.
But illustrations can also really work, but depends on the subject matter. Sometimes a fantasy story, like people like to write science fiction, I think you do, that probably an illustration might even work better because we don't have that many populations of cities on other planets yet. So we're probably going to need to use it.
Quite right, and in terms of your writing process, what works best for you? Are you a computer guy or fountain pen or typewriter? What works?
I find that the moments of inspiration come to me and I just got to have a pencil or a pen in my hand. In fact, I tend to cut excess white paper that's only printed on one side into 4 little squares. And so I've got paper about that side and I just keep a stack of it. And every time I'm inspired with something, I'll start writing notes like crazy. And that's where my other book, Think Like a Molecule, came from, is that I was just taking all of these little ideas that I'd written over many, many years, and I said, wait a minute, this is a book. Yeah. So I gradually collected it all together, and it's got a coherent message, but it was built on many moments of inspiration.
Right.
And I think the power of the wand, I think is about having that pen in your hand, and that is the thing that can save the world, because that's where ideas get down on paper, and they become from the imaginary, invisible world of your brain. You get them down onto paper, and you've got a chance that they can really be seen by others, and then they can endure.
Makes sense. Yeah. What books have influenced you most throughout your life, would you say? Or if you could name one?
I think probably almost anything by like Isaac Asimov or Robert Heinlein. Those kind of science fiction authors are very, very inspiring to me. So Childhood's End, things like that. So anyway, I think that science fiction is my go-to inspiration.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I was amazed at how many movies have been translated from Asimov's books and stories. I was quite fascinated to learn that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, sure. Well, I think that Wand has got the possibility. In fact, I've had an offer to make a movie of Wand, and I think that was something we're working on, thinking about. So I think that it would like, and I think there's something very fundamental about the aspiration to make things better in the world.
Sure.
Is something that we can all relate to.
Absolutely, yeah. And how do you feel about ebooks and Kindles in the new age of
they're just
reading?
great. The publishing is simply going to evolve. It used to be the newspaper, and Mark Twain said, a newspaper is fine. I think I'd like to rather have a book, though.
Right.
But it's on the Kindle, and the electronic distribution of books doesn't spell the end of books, because books have a certain reality to them that I love. But on the other hand, they can go electronically. The number of books that I've seen in this book fair that I want to download is just vast, and so the idea of loading things down to a Kindle for $2.99 is $2.99, and so it's pretty enticing.
And actually, you've still got the turn page kind of effect with the finger. It's quite clever, actually.
That's true. Absolutely right. So that physical contact.
Smart people, yeah.
Right. I like it a lot too.
And in terms of your experience working with Authors Press so far, how have you found that?
Well, they're very, just an enabler for me. They just really made it possible. I think that book was it was sitting on a shelf because it didn't win the contest that Ted Turner ran, and they said, "What have you got, Chuck?" And I said, "Well, gosh darn it, I want this book to get out there." So Authors Press made that possible, and I think they're really about enabling the author. That's course, what the name of the company means. So I think that's it's pay as you go. But I made my way in the world with the assistance of Authors Press, and here I am at a London book fair. I live in California.
Exactly, a long way away.
Led into a fantastic new experience.
Yeah, it's been a great fair. And do you ever dedicate your books to anyone?
Well, it would be my father and my mother. They're both authors. My dad was a film critic with the Los Angeles Times and worked for Life magazine and wrote about 4 books back there where the past was, where he grew up by the Finger Lakes in New York. My mother wrote a whole book about a gentleman geologist named Raphael Pompelli. And so both of them have inspired me for sure.
Excellent. And so, in terms of where can we find your books? Tell us more about that.
Oh, Amazon, whatever it says on the back here. All of the places that you go get books, Amazon and through the website of Authors Press. Lots of ways to do it. And here at the book fair, or call me up. I'll send you a copy.
Excellent. Okay. Well, it's been great to talk to you, Chuck, and hope you enjoy the rest of the time at the London Book Fair.
Absolutely great. Really fun. Ben, you're a fine guy, and I'm really excited to see your artwork for your science fiction
possible collaboration. Yeah.
Absolutely, work together.
Great to see you.
And again, thanks to Authors Press. Good job.
Thank you.